So, do we have a double standard? The answer is no. As this report makes clear, in general, as we're looking at human rights and the condition of human rights around the world, we apply the same standard to everyone. And that doesn't change whether the country in question is an adversary, a competitor, a friend, or an ally. And that's hugely important. With regard to the Leahy Law report that I think you were referring to at the outset, this is, I think, a good example of a process that is very deliberate, that seeks to get the facts, to get all the information, that has to be done carefully, and that's exactly how we proceeded, as we proceed with any country that is the recipient of military assistance from the United States. And again, the same standard applies.
Will make its own determination if war crimes are being committed by Israel or Hamas or any of those other groups.
We will, from day one, we've been working to do everything we can to try to increase protection for civilians, as well as, you know, to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian assistance for the Gazans who so desperately need it. When it comes to allegations of incidents of whether it's violations of international humanitarian law, rights abuses, you name it, we have processes within the department that are looking at incidents that have been raised.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Wednesday that, quote, "We will make our own decisions and the state of Israel will do everything necessary to defend itself," after coming under attack by a volley of Iranian missiles and drones last weekend. Western countries pleading for restraint have dispatched their top diplomats to Jerusalem.
Denn Stärke hat Israel mit seinem Defensivsieg.
I answered them as best as I could.
Thank you.
One evening, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Please,
Thank you.
Thank you for the support you've given Israel in the Iranian attack. It's important. And it's something, of course, we should consider as well among the other considerations that we're going to be discussing. So thank you. אני בא עכשיו מפגישות עם שרי החוץ של בריטניה וגרמניה. אמש שוחחתי עם ראש ממשלת בריטניה רישי סונאק. בקרוב אני גם משוחח עם מנהיגים נוספים. אני מודה לידידינו על תמיכתם בהגנת ישראל, ואני אומר את זה גם תמיכה במילים וגם תמיכה במעשים. יש להם גם כל מיני הצעות ועצות, אני מעריך את זה, אבל אני רוצה להבהיר שאת ההחלטות שלנו אנחנו נקבל בעצמנו. ומדינת ישראל תעשה כל מה שצריך כדי להגן על עצמה.
almost 9 million people displaced in a year. It will be a year in a few. Not have a place to stay. Healthcare is very limited by this lack of resources. Some of them.
Another refugee crisis from Gaza into Egypt. I can assure you, having been the head of UNRWA myself, I speak from knowledge, would make the resolution of that Palestinian refugee question, and as a consequence of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, impossible. So we must fervently do everything for this not to happen. And this is why we have constantly said the priority is to have access inside Gaza, because that's the only way that you can prevent this from happening.
There were already people displaced before, as there were refugees from neighboring countries fleeing Sudan and going to South Sudan are actually South Sudan.
I really hope, fervently hope, that none of us will be put under the terrible dilemma of saying people are stuck, hundreds of thousands, in Rafah, with an attack on Rafah that, may make this as the only option for safety available. This dilemma is unacceptable, and the responsibility to avoid this dilemma lies squarely in this particular case with Israel, the occupying power in Gaza. So this must be very clear. And that responsibility implies having access to these people so that they don't have to go into, for themselves, a terrible dilemma of, going into Egypt.
Europe is always so worried about increasing around.
We are looking at the region and at the possibility not only of outflow, but also that the conflict may expand. There's almost 100,000 people internally displaced in Lebanon already. Nobody's talking about them, but the Lebanese government has asked us to help them deal with these people. So we are stocking tents and supplies and working with all these countries in doing their own contingency plan. But I repeat, we must not arrive at that atrocious dilemma, which would be really almost the end of the road for what is really important here, ultimate peace.
Alone, of course, has been cross-border from Chad, but it has been warring parties. So there is a lot of work to be done also on what we would call protect.
More crowds moving away, going to Al-Mawassa and other places on the coast, fearing the bullets shot at a UNICEF car. And so clearly the system that we have in terms of these are in fact destroyed. And what we have now is 3/4 of the hospitals and most of safe and clean water. And the destruction of the sanitation systems, they're all bringing about problems for the population living there. As a result of that, I think there's going to be the immediate thing, which is obviously what we face just now, the challenge of water. This is becoming very hot there now. The water supply system, people have got very much less water than they need. And as a result of that, waterborne diseases due to the lack of safe and clean water and the destruction of the sanitation systems, they're all bringing about problems for the population living there. As a result of that, there's been a lot of illnesses that have arisen, which are waterborne disease illnesses. And so we have to find a way in the months ahead of how we can have a better supply of water into the areas where people are currently crowded at the moment. Inside the area itself, and there was reports of 100 kg bombs being let.